The sky was a slate-gray sheet, heavy with rain that hammered the countryside like a relentless drumbeat. Daniel's old truck crept along the narrow dirt road, tires slipping and sliding as the muddy ground soaked up the storm. The windshield wipers squeaked in protest, trying to clear the thick curtain of water, but visibility was poor. He'd been driving for hours, eager to get home after a long day at the garage. Just as he rounded a bend flanked by tall, wind-bent trees, a faint noise caught his attention. A soft, desperate whimper barely audible over the storm. He slowed to a crawl, the truck's engine rumbling low. His eyes scanned the roadside, shining the beam of his flashlight into the gloom. That's when he saw it, a small shape barely moving, half submerged in the muddy ditch beside the road. Daniel's heart clenched. Without thinking twice, he pulled the truck to the shoulder and grabbed his heavy raincoat from the passenger seat. He stepped out into the cold, the rain instantly soaking through his clothes. The mud beneath his boots was thick and treacherous, pulling at his shoes like a living thing. Each step was a struggle as he waded into the ditch, the water chilling his legs. Closer now, he saw the full extent of the puppy's plight. The tiny animal was covered in a thick layer of sticky, dark mud, its fur matted and heavy. It was trembling uncontrollably, eyes barely open, glazed with exhaustion and pain. Its little ribs pressed sharply against the grime, and a faint shiver ran through its frail body. "Hey, buddy," Daniel whispered gently, careful not to scare it further. He crouched down, reached out, and wrapped his hands around the puppy's tiny frame. The mud was cold and slick, but the pup offered no resistance, only soft whimpers of relief. Carefully, he lifted the puppy from the muck and pulled himself back onto the road. His jacket was soaked, but the warmth of the animal pressed against his chest made him forget the cold. Back inside the truck, Daniel wrapped the trembling pup in an old sweatshirt he kept in the back seat. He turned the heater on full blast and cradled the creature in his arms. The puppy's breaths grew steadier, little whines replaced by soft sighs of comfort. Daniel glanced at the small face now peeking out from the fabric. Big eyes, almost too wide for its tiny head, glistening with a mix of fear and trust. For a moment, the storm outside faded into silence. He knew he couldn't just leave the puppy here to die. The roads were treacherous, and night was falling fast. Daniel's mind raced through options: a vet, an animal shelter. But first, the puppy needed warmth and safety. Pulling out his phone, he typed a quick message to a friend who worked at a nearby animal clinic. "Found a puppy in bad shape on Route 12. Bringing it your way. Need help." As the truck rumbled through the rain, Daniel kept one hand steady on the tiny body in his lap, whispering soft reassurances. "Hang in there, little guy. We're gonna get you clean and safe. I promise." What started as a routine drive home had suddenly turned into a rescue mission. Daniel had no idea that the mud-caked puppy in his arms would soon reveal a secret that would shock him and change his life forever. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time Daniel pulled into his driveway, but the sky remained heavy with clouds, threatening another downpour at any moment. The puppy, still wrapped tightly in the sweatshirt, was curled up against his chest, its tiny body trembling despite the warmth of the truck's heater. Daniel's mind was racing. He knew the animal was in bad shape. The mud had clung to every inch of its fur, weighing it down, and the faint whimpers suggested exhaustion or worse. With careful hands, Daniel lifted the puppy out of the truck and carried it into the small mudroom of his modest home. The familiar smell of damp earth mixed with the scent of pinewood furniture greeted him, but his focus was entirely on the fragile life in his arms. The pup's legs were weak and barely moved as Daniel sat down and gently wrapped it in a thick towel. He filled the bathroom sink with warm water, careful not to make it too hot. The puppy's matted fur was a grimy tangle of dirt and leaves, stuck so tightly that Daniel doubted it had been free of mud for days. Slowly and patiently, he dipped a washcloth into the warm water and began to wipe away the layers of sludge, working inch by inch. The puppy flinched at first, but soon relaxed, the warmth and gentle touch easing its tension. As the grime loosened, a few patches of soft white fur began to appear beneath the mud, dirty but unmistakably beautiful. Daniel's heart lifted. This little creature had already endured so much, and yet clung stubbornly to life. After nearly an hour, Daniel finally finished the cleanup. The puppy was now wet and shivering, but visibly lighter and healthier looking. He wrapped it in a fresh towel and wrapped a heating pad around the pup's tiny frame. The puppy nestled into Daniel's lap, its warm breath steadying with every slow exhale. Daniel took a moment to study the animal more closely. Its eyes, once dull and glassy, were now bright and alert, shining with intelligence and a hint of gratitude. But there was something unusual. As the mud washed away, Daniel noticed a strange mark on the puppy's inner thigh, a faint, faded tattoo of some kind, almost like a tiny symbol pressed into the skin. Curiosity flickered inside him. What kind of puppy had a tattoo? Had it been lost or stolen? The thought sent a chill through him. He pulled out his phone and snapped a close-up photo of the mark, then typed a quick message to a local animal rescue group he followed online. Found a puppy on Route 12, badly injured and covered in mud. Has a strange tattoo on her thigh. Does anyone recognize this? Within minutes, responses began trickling in. Some expressed concern, while others advised him to be careful. One message, from an anonymous user, read, "That tattoo means trouble. It's linked to illegal breeders. Be careful who you tell." Daniel frowned, the weight of the situation sinking in. This wasn't just an abandoned dog. There was more to this story than he'd imagined. But the puppy was safe now, warm and breathing easier. He named her Hope, because in that moment, she was exactly that, a flicker of light in the muddy darkness. As Daniel prepared a small bed with blankets for Hope, he knew the road ahead would be complicated. But for now, he simply sat with her, whispering promises of safety and comfort. Outside, the rain continued to fall. But inside that little house, a new story was just beginning. The first night passed quietly, but Daniel barely slept. Every few hours, he checked on Hope, the little puppy curled up tightly in the blanket-lined box beside his bed. Her breaths were shallow but steady now, and she had even started to wag her tail when he approached. Despite the weariness in her eyes, there was a spark, a sign of life fighting through the shadows of her ordeal. Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a pale glow over the small room. Daniel brewed a strong cup of coffee and carefully prepared a warm bath for Hope. She was restless, but he knew the last layers of mud and grime needed to come off. He lifted her gently into the shallow tub, the puppy stiffening at first before settling into the warm water. As the bathwater turned cloudy with dirt and grit, Daniel started to brush Hope's fur softly. It was then he noticed something he hadn't before. Beneath the mud and tangled fur, her coat was sleek and unusually glossy. The fur glistened with an almost unnatural shine, far too perfect for a typical stray. Curious, Daniel peered closer at the tattoo on her inner thigh. The mark, now more visible with the wet fur clinging to her skin, looked like a small, intricate symbol, a series of faint numbers and letters. He pulled out his phone and zoomed in on the photo he had taken the previous evening. His mind raced through possibilities. What if this tattoo was a form of identification, something vets or breeders might use? He had never seen anything like it on a dog before. Determined to find answers, Daniel uploaded the picture of the tattoo to an online pet rescue forum. Within minutes, his post sparked a wave of comments. Some users guessed it might be a microchip tattoo code, while others warned it could be linked to illegal animal breeding rings. One message stood out. This mark matches those used by exotic animal breeders who traffic rare hybrids. Be very cautious. Daniel's chest tightened. Rare hybrids, illegal breeders. The words echoed ominously. He had only wanted to rescue a helpless puppy, but now he realized the situation was far more complicated and dangerous than he had imagined. He called his friend Sarah, a veterinary technician he trusted. Sarah agreed to meet him at the clinic to examine Hope thoroughly and run a microchip scan. If there was one, it might reveal the puppy's origins. Later that afternoon, Hope sat quietly on the stainless steel table, her big eyes watching the vet team with curiosity. Sarah's scanner beeped faintly, but nothing showed up on the screen. No registered microchip. That wasn't unusual for strays, but the tattoo still nagged at Daniel. Sarah looked up, concern shadowing her face. If she isn't microchipped, that tattoo might be the only clue. It's possible she was part of something illegal, something they don't want traced. Daniel nodded, feeling the weight of the truth settle on his shoulders. Hope was more than a lost puppy. She was a mystery wrapped in mud and secrets. As he drove back home that evening, Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror at Hope, now resting quietly in her travel crate. He knew his simple act of kindness had uncovered something much bigger. The puppy's past was hidden in that tattoo, and whatever it meant, it was bound to change both their lives forever. Back at home, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, the glow of his laptop illuminating the room as rain tapped steadily against the window. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, reading the flood of messages pouring in from the local pet rescue group and strangers online. The tattoo on Hope's thigh wasn't just unusual. It was a red flag. Multiple users warned him that similar markings had been linked to illegal exotic animal breeders operating under the radar. These breeders specialized in selling rare and hybrid animals to wealthy clients, often in cruel, underground conditions. Some commenters even cautioned that people involved in these operations could be dangerous, and that Daniel should be careful who he told about Hope. A knot tightened in Daniel's stomach. He hadn't expected rescuing a puppy to lead him into something so dark and complicated. But the little dog had no one else. Daniel felt a deep, unshakable responsibility to protect her, no matter what. As the messages poured in, one stood out, a private note from an anonymous user. The message was brief but chilling. They're watching. Don't trust anyone but the police. Daniel's fingers trembled as he read the warning. Who was they? And how did they know about Hope? Questions raced through his mind. He glanced over at the little crate where Hope lay curled up, her small body rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. She looked peaceful now, but Daniel knew the danger might be lurking nearby. Determined to act quickly, Daniel reached out to a local animal welfare organization with a reputation for working closely with law enforcement. He explained Hope's story, the tattoo, and the messages he had received. They promised to help, but warned that cases like this could take time and needed careful handling. Meanwhile, Daniel wasn't willing to wait passively. He decided to keep Hope safe at his home but remained vigilant. He changed his routine, taking different routes to work, keeping an eye out for any unfamiliar cars parked near his house, and never leaving Hope alone outside. The atmosphere grew tense. Strange things began happening. Late at night, headlights flickered across his living room window. Unfamiliar voices whispered on the street below. And once, Daniel found a fresh paw print smeared on his front door, as if someone, or something, had been watching. Daniel confided in his closest friends, but kept the more unsettling details to himself. He was scared, but he also felt a fierce protective urge for Hope growing stronger every day. To distract himself, and maybe find more clues, Daniel started researching online about illegal breeding rings and the dark market for exotic animals. The more he read, the clearer it became that Hope's tattoo was a symbol tied to a hidden network trafficking rare hybrids, creatures often stolen from their natural habitats or bred in cruel secrecy. This was no longer just about saving one puppy from the mud. Daniel realized he had stumbled onto something much bigger, a dangerous web of animal cruelty and crime. As he sat back and looked at Hope's tired eyes, he made a silent promise. Whatever the cost, he would fight to keep her safe and bring those responsible to justice. Outside, the rain began to ease, but the storm inside Daniel's world was only just beginning. The next morning, Daniel woke early, still weighed down by the events of the previous day. Hope lay quietly on a blanket at the foot of his bed, her chest rising steadily with each breath. Daniel felt a growing urgency to find out the truth behind the tattoo and the strange messages. It wasn't just about protecting Hope anymore. It was about uncovering the mystery that clung to her like the mud hat. He made a quick call to Dr. Martinez, a trusted veterinarian in town known for her expertise with unusual and exotic animals. He explained everything: the rescue, the tattoo, the warnings online. Without hesitation, she agreed to see Hope immediately. When Daniel arrived at the clinic, he was met with a warm but serious expression from Dr. Martinez. She gently took Hope into her arms, examining the puppy with a keen eye. The usual routine checkup was replaced with something more detailed: scans, blood work, and careful observations. After an hour, Dr. Martinez asked Daniel to wait in her office. When she returned, her face was a mix of concern and surprise. "Daniel, I've never seen anything like this," she began quietly. "Hope isn't just a regular puppy. She's a wolf hybrid, a rare mix between a domestic dog and a wild wolf." Daniel blinked, struggling to process the news. "A wolf? But she's so small, so young." "That's the thing," Dr. Martinez continued. "Wolf hybrids can look like dogs, but they have different needs and behaviors. And they're often bred illegally because of their rarity and high price on the black market." She paused, then added, "That tattoo you found matches markings used by breeders who track their animals, often in underground networks. It's a way for them to claim ownership and identify their stock without registering officially." Daniel's heart pounded. This wasn't just about rescuing a stray anymore. Hope was part of something far bigger and darker than he'd imagined. "What does this mean for her?" "For me, it means," Dr. Martinez said softly, "that you're now involved in something serious. These breeders don't like to be found, and they can be dangerous. But Hope needs specialized care, and she's lucky you found her when you did." Daniel looked down at Hope, who licked his finger gently, trusting him without hesitation. He felt a fierce protective instinct surge inside him. He wasn't about to let anyone take her away. "Can you help me keep her safe?" he asked. "We'll do everything we can," Dr. Martinez promised. "I'll contact some colleagues who work with animal protection agencies. They might be able to advise on what to do next." As Daniel left the clinic, the reality settled in. Hope's origins weren't just a curiosity. They were a threat. The illegal breeders, the tattoo, the strange messages, they all pointed to a dangerous world of underground animal trafficking. Driving home, Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror. Hope was sleeping quietly in her crate, unaware of the storm swirling around her. But Daniel knew this was just the beginning of a fight for her safety, and maybe his own. Back at home, Daniel was restless. The truth about Hope being a rare wolf hybrid weighed heavily on his mind. The illegal breeders were real, dangerous, and somehow connected to the tattoo on Hope's thigh. And the chilling message he'd received, "They're watching," kept echoing in his head. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood, Daniel paced the living room, glancing frequently at the crate where Hope lay curled up, her small chest rising and falling gently. He had taken every precaution. The windows locked, the porch light left on, and a new security camera installed by the front door. Suddenly, the soft chime of his phone startled him. It was an unknown number. Daniel hesitated but answered. "Who is this?" he asked cautiously. A low, distorted voice responded, "You have something that belongs to us." The call ended abruptly, leaving Daniel staring at the silent phone. His heart raced, a cold sweat breaking out on his skin. Whoever was on the line knew about Hope, and they were not bluffing. Minutes later, the sound of footsteps crunching gravel outside drew his attention to the window. Peering through the blinds, Daniel saw a shadowy figure lurking near the edge of his yard. The figure paused, then disappeared into the night. Fear surged through Daniel, but so did determination. He grabbed a flashlight and quietly stepped outside. The cold night air bit at his skin, but he scanned every corner of his yard. finding only disturbed leaves and faint paw prints, but no person. When he returned inside, Hope stirred and whined softly. Daniel stroked her head gently. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he whispered. The following day, Daniel contacted the local police, sharing the threatening call and the strange visitor. They promised to increase patrols nearby, but warned him to stay vigilant. Meanwhile, Daniel reached out again to animal protection agencies and a friend in the wildlife rescue community. They advised him to keep Hope indoors, avoid public places, and document everything. The reality was sinking in fast. The breeders didn't want Hope free, and now Daniel was a target for simply trying to protect her. That night, unable to sleep, Daniel sat beside Hope's crate, researching legal protections for wolf hybrids and preparing for the possibility of needing to relocate. His fingers trembled over the keyboard as he dug deeper into the underground breeder networks. He uncovered chilling stories of animals stolen from sanctuaries, smuggled across borders, and sold to dangerous buyers. Many of these creatures never saw freedom again. But Hope was different. She had been given a second chance by a man who hadn't hesitated to risk everything for a mud-covered puppy on the side of a rain-soaked road. As Daniel stared at Hope's trusting eyes, a fierce promise solidified in his heart. No matter what came next, he would fight to keep her safe, even if it meant standing against forces much bigger and darker than he'd ever faced before. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows like a warning. The storm was far from over. Days blurred into nights as Daniel's world tightened around the fragile life of Hope. Every moment was a careful balance of vigilance and care, his small house now a fortress of love and protection. But the looming threat outside those walls grew more tangible with every passing hour. Daniel had received more cryptic messages, warnings veiled in shadows, threats thinly disguised as advice. "Let her go," one read, "or suffer the consequences." But surrendering Hope was never an option. She had come too far to be lost again. To stay ahead, Daniel arranged a meeting with a contact from an animal protection agency who specialized in rescuing illegally bred animals. They agreed to help arrange a safe transfer for Hope to a sanctuary equipped to care for wolf hybrids, an elusive place, hidden away for the animal's protection. That afternoon, Daniel packed the essentials: Hope's favorite blanket, food, and her medical records. As he cradled the puppy in his arms, he felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. But before he could leave, the unexpected happened. A loud, aggressive knock echoed through the house. Daniel's heart hammered as he moved cautiously toward the door, Hope trembling softly in his arms. "Police," a voice called. "Open up." Relief flooded Daniel's chest. He swung open the door to find two officers standing there, badges gleaming despite the dim light. "We're here to help," one said. "We receive reports about threats to you and the puppy." Daniel exhaled deeply, grateful yet still anxious. "Thank you. I'm ready to get Hope to safety." Outside, a black van waited, an unmarked but official vehicle used by the rescue team. Daniel gently lifted Hope into a soft carrier and climbed inside. As the van pulled away, Daniel looked back at his home, the place where a muddy puppy had become his world. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, hope glimmered brighter than fear. During the ride, the team briefed Daniel on the sanctuary's strict security measures and how they worked with law enforcement to track down illegal breeders. It was a dangerous game, but one worth playing. When they arrived, Daniel saw a sprawling forested haven where other rescued animals roamed free. Hope's ears perked up, her eyes wide with curiosity as she sniffed the fresh air. Daniel knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he whispered. The sanctuary staff took over, promising to provide Hope with the care and freedom she deserved. As Daniel prepared to leave, a final message buzzed on his phone. "This isn't over." He swallowed hard. The fight to protect Hope, and others like her, was only just beginning. The sanctuary's gates closed quietly behind Daniel as he watched Hope disappear into the embrace of her new home. The forest around her was alive with the sounds of birdsong and rustling leaves, a world so different from the muddy roadside where he had first found her. Hope's transformation was already beginning. The scars of her past still lingered, but in the safety of this sanctuary, she would learn what it meant to be free, to run, explore, and simply be herself. Daniel felt a mix of relief and sadness. He had saved her from the mud, but he knew the battle to protect animals like Hope was far from over. The tattoo on her thigh was a cruel reminder of a hidden world of greed and cruelty that thrived in the shadows. Before leaving, Daniel met with the sanctuary's director, who thanked him for his bravery and determination. Together, they planned to raise awareness about illegal animal trafficking and the dangers faced by hybrid animals. Back at home, Daniel's phone buzzed constantly with messages of support from strangers touched by Hope's story. People shared their own rescues, their heartbreaks, and their hopes for change. It was a reminder that even in darkness, acts of kindness could ripple far beyond one life. Daniel vowed to continue fighting. For Hope, for the countless animals still trapped in chains of abuse, and for a world where no puppy would ever be left alone in the mud. As he sat by the window that evening, watching the sun set in hues of orange and pink, Daniel smiled softly. Hope had changed his life in ways he never expected. She had come into his world covered in mud and fear, but she left a trail of hope that could never be washed away. And somewhere, beyond the shadows, a better future was waiting to be born.